Her Excellency, Mrs. Hirut Zemene, State Minister of Foreign Affairs, the Federal Democratic Republic of Ethiopia. His Excellency, Mr. Thomas Kwasi Kwati, Deputy Chairperson of the African Union Commission. Excellencies, ambassadors, my colleagues from the United Nations system, ladies and gentlemen. It is indeed a great honor and a rare privilege for me to be here with you today to commemorate the United Nations Day. I'm also delighted to celebrate this day in a country which conferred its trust on the United Nations by signing the Charter as one of its founding members in 1945 and consistently demonstrated its commitment to the values and to the success of the United Nations system. My role today is simple. It is to deliver the message of the United Nations Secretary General, Mr. Antonio Guterres, for this year's United Nations Day commemorations. And I quote, "United Nations Day marks the birthday of our founding charter, the landmark document that embodies the hopes, dreams, and aspirations of we the peoples. Every day, the women and men of the United Nations work to give practical meaning to that charter. Despite the odds and the obstacles, we never give up. Extreme poverty is being reduced, but we see inequality growing. Yet we don't give up because we know by reducing inequality, we increase hope and opportunity and peace around the world. Climate change is moving faster than we are, but we don't give up because we know that climate action is the only path. Human rights are being violated in so many places, but we don't give up because we know respect for human rights and human dignity is a basic condition for peace. Conflicts are multiplying, people are suffering, but we don't give up because we know every man, woman, and child deserves a life of peace. On United Nations Day, let us all reaffirm our commitment to repair broken trust, to heal our planet, to leave no one behind, to uphold dignity for one and all as United Nations. And this is the end of the message from the Secretary General of the United Nations on this special occasion. And I thank you kindly for your attention.
So we will now proceed with the program for the flag raising ceremony. The honorable Paula, committed to carry on. Your Excellency, the flag raising ceremony is over. Permission to dismiss. Stand up. Thank you so much.
Excellency Mr. Agnes Champa Chuma, United Nations Resident Coordinator, United Nations Development Program Resident Representative, and United Nations Humanitarian Coordinator, Excellency Brother Chrissy Quarty, Deputy Chair of the African Union, and my sister, Her Excellency Giovanni Biha, Deputy Executive Secretary of the ECA, ladies and gentlemen, distinguished ambassadors, I feel honored to address this August Assembly on this special day, a day that was designated as a day to commemorate the entry into force of the United Nations Charter in 1945, and since 1948, member states yearly celebrate it warmly. I don't want to bore you with the usual statements, as I have expected. Secretary General Guterres has a way of summarizing his points, telling us the facts in very simple words. But I have to say a few things that would probably emphasize on what he said. The United Nations has brought together the world nations of common concerns of humanity, such as international peace and security, promoting human rights, fostering social and economic development, protecting the environment, and providing humanitarian aid in cases of natural and man-made calamities. No doubt, the United Nations is the largest body serving as a unique platform for exchanging of dialogue on global concerns. Ethiopia, as a founding member of the United Nations and currently a seat for 28 resident UN agencies, including the ECA, has always attached great importance in the work of the organization. Ethiopia has contributed its part to the ethos of the organization through the deployment of the largest peacekeeping fleet across the globe. As the current non-permanent member of the United Nations Security Council, it is playing its part in global peace and security matters, notwithstanding, of course, proudly voicing the interests of the continent. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, Ethiopia is keenly following reforms undertaken by the Secretary General, His Excellency Antonios Guterres. We always strongly support the agreement reached between the United Nations for their partnership agreement to cooperate for the realization of achieving Agenda 2030 and Agenda 2063. The two agendas intersect on their purpose as both advocate for people-centered, integrated, and of inclusive growth, as well as sustainable development and shared common priorities for Africa's transformation. Their joint activities and programs for the effective implementation will undoubtedly help realize the goals of these important documents. In this context, I'd like to confirm my country's support for strengthening the joint efforts and the reform undertaken by the United Nations. As submitted in our 2017 voluntary national reviews of SDGs, Ethiopia has accepted with strong commitments and endorsed the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development by its highest legislative body, the House of People's Representatives. The 2030 Agenda and its SDGs also are aligned with our National Development Framework, which is known as the Second Five-Year Growth and Transformation Plan. On behalf of the Government of Ethiopia, I'd like to express gratitude for the United Nations Development Assistance Framework in supporting my country to achieve SDGs. Please also allow me, Excellencies, to thank the UN agencies residing in Ethiopia and the UN country teams for their unreserved support and tireless efforts in this endeavor. As we celebrate this important day, Let's hold high the spirit of partnership and communities of the world nations, multilateralism as a viable approach for the global humanity. I thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Your Excellency. Thank you for the great remark. Thank you also for emphasizing.
Your Excellency, Mrs. Hirut Zemene, State Minister of Foreign Affairs of Ethiopia, and my dear sister, Your Excellency, Chima Chapenga, UNDP Resident Rep, Your Excellency and my sister Giovanni, distinguished members of the Diplomatic Corps, ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, a very good morning to all of you. Dananachu. That's what all the Americans know, actually. I am truly delighted and honored to represent the African Union Commission this morning on this very auspicious occasion commemorating and marking United Nations Day. I also bring you the fraternal greetings of our chair, His Excellency Musa Faki Mahamat, and wishing you all a happy UN Day. Today is indeed momentous and significant. It marks our shared and noble value, recognizing our common humanity as members of the Committee of Nations. It is a day devoted to making known to all people everywhere across the globe the aims and achievements of the United Nations. It is the most significant as it marks the anniversary of the entry into force in 1945 of the United Nations Charter, an instrument that upholds a collective enterprise in this unique organization and whose unique character is represented in the preamble, which begins, "We, the people of the United Nations." Your Excellencies, the United Nations has been the guarantee for sustainable peace and development for 70+ odd years. The UN remains the largest, the most familiar, and the most internationally represented and most universal intergovernmental organization in the world today. The General Assembly has sometimes been referred as the Parliament of Man. It remains the very foundation and unique expression of multilateralism, which over the years, and in spite of occasional defects, has delivered tangible results and has had a positive impact on the resolution of issues across the world, particularly African issues from decolonization, armed conflicts, humanitarian crisis, and the collective struggle against poverty, pandemics, climate change, and all matters that can only be dealt with collectively. For us in Africa, it has ensured our self-determination in larger freedom and liberated us from apartheid. Talking about liberation, I'd like today to salute Ethiopia and the Ethiopian Armed Forces, whose magnificent display demonstrates to us once again its unity, its independence, and its continued self-determination. And I hope my friend, the Italian ambassador, Somai, might say so. It has, by inflicting the odd defeat at Adwa, ensured that all of us continue to be free. Giuseppe, excuse me. We continue to follow closely reforms of the United Nations, and we in Africa abide by the Eswili consensus. In this In these times, when sometimes doubts are being raised about multilateralism, we in the African Union regard our cooperation with the United Nations as not only strategic, but fraternal. Africa remains committed to the maintenance of a rule-based international order which advances a relatively level playing field for us all. Multilateralism serves the best interests of all of us, weaker countries, stronger countries in the global system, and restrains impunity, guarantees human rights, even when violated by the mightiest and the wealthiest. It helps us to pursue and create our vision of the Africa we want, a peaceful, integrated, prosperous, democratic continent at peace with itself and with the world. Your Excellencies, I hope you permit me if I borrow a quote from my illustrious departed compatriot Kofi Annan on the value of education for peace and development. We in Africa have a vision of an Africa where every child is in school. We have a vision of a literate and a numerate Africa which can imbibe science and technology and leverage it in production and intra-African trade. So with this, I quote from Kofi Annan, who says, "Literacy is a bridge from misery to hope. It is a tool for daily life in modern society. It is a bulwark against poverty and a building block of development, an essential complement to investment in roads, dams, clinics, and factories. Literacy is a platform for democratization and a vehicle for the promotion of cultural and national identity, especially for girls and women. It is an agent for family health and nutrition. For everyone, everywhere, literacy is, along education in general, a basic human right. Literacy is finally the road to human progress and the means through which every man, woman, and child can realize his or her own potential," unquote, Kofi Annan. Your Excellencies, with these few words, I'd like once again, on behalf of our chair, Musa, to wish you all a happy United Nations Day, and thank you for your kind attention.
Thank you, His Excellency, for this brilliant remark. We're getting close to the end of the ceremony, but we have two important things we would like to do.